Welcome again to the Actor's Vow. How are you guys? I hope your week was good. I'm just keeping up with my Grey's Anatomy and I watched an incredible movie. You're probably like, you're late to the game again. I know. This weekend I watched Being John Malkovich, and I know it's old and it's been out for so long and I don't know why I had never watched it. But if you haven't watched it, you have to. It's from the writer Charlie Kaufman. And I found out about him when I watched his first movie, Synecdoche, New York. I don't know if I butchered that, but it's with Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it's one of my favorite movies ever. And then recently, I watched I'm Thinking of Ending Things on Netflix, which is also by Charlie Kaufman. And his style, it's very specific. Like, you might hate it or you might love it, but I really, really recommend this movie, especially right now. It just came out. I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and it's on Netflix. I'm going to be so upset if this movie doesn't go to the Academy Awards this year, because the acting, the writing, everything about it is just impeccable. I also find it really funny that the main actor of I'm Thinking About Ending Things is Jesse Plemons, which is an incredible actor. I love everything he does. If you don't know him, just look him up. I'm sure you know who he is. But Jesse Plemons, when I found him the first time, I think it was an episode of Black Mirror. And I always thought this guy looks exactly like Philip Seymour Hoffman. And I'm like, if someone was to play his life in a movie, it would be Jesse Plemons. And it was funny because the other day I watched The Master and he was playing his son there. And now he is working with Charlie Kaufman, which is the director and writer who used to always work with Philip Seymour Hoffman. So I don't know what's going on there, but I know there was a lot of information, and it's like a triangle, like a love triangle with like actors and directors, but I love it. Like, I love what's going on. I think Charlie Kaufman, amazing writer and director. Philip Seymour Hoffman was one of the best actors that we've had. And Jesse Plemons now is like doing things with Charlie Kaufman. So I love it. If you haven't seen these movies, again, Being John Malkovich, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and Synecdoche, New York, I truly recommend them. So before we start this week's episode, which is going to be all show business and all the tips you need to get an agent and a manager and everything you need to know about getting an agent and a manager, because I know those things are kind of confusing at the beginning. So I want to introduce to you the Sunday spotlight of this week. Her name is Rebecca Fisher, and she's a trans woman based in New York City. And she actually just recently graduated from the American Musical and Dramatic Academy's musical theater program in New York City. So congratulations, Rebecca, that's amazing. And in her interview this Sunday, she's going to be talking about many things, but mostly about, navigating a type-driven industry and how she has had to struggle breaking barriers and how she can still play a normal woman's role, and how this industry has many stereotypes that need to be broken. She's going to be talking about that and many more things in this week's interview on Sunday on the Actor's Vow Instagram at the Actor's Vow. But if you want to find Rebecca before that, she has an Instagram, and that's at Rebecca.985 at REBECCA.985. So this week we're going to be talking about agents and managers. Oh, how exciting. Don't we all love to look for an agent and manager? I just love the phrase of agents being a necessary evil. And if any agents listening to this, like, we love you and you help us. But like, honestly, finding a good agent and it working out, and just the process of finding an agent or a manager can be very stressful for actors. And actually the other day I was talking to Christian, my boyfriend, who he's not in the industry. He's actually studying his master's in nursing right now. And he asked me, what's the difference between an agent and a manager? And I started explaining to him, and I realized, well, he doesn't know and most people don't know. And actually me, some years ago, I had no idea either, even when I was in school, because not a lot of schools talk about that, and that's something you learn more, when you are out in the world. So I thought I would give you that breakdown on what exactly the difference between an agent and a manager is, and how you get them, and how to navigate them, and how to get the best experience out of it for you. So let's start with an agent. So an agent job is very simple. He basically just procures you jobs and negotiates them. That's all he does. He finds you the jobs, he sends you to the audition, and then he negotiates for you. They get exclusive breakdowns, which means that they get breakdowns that you don't get to see if you are working freelance. Now, things are changing right now. Back in the days, it was way worse not having an agent, because nowadays we have the internet and we have many breakdown services, but still, not all breakdowns are on those breakdown services. There are especially things from big productions, big studios that don't get there. So you do need an agent if you want to access those breakdowns. They also determine who you are and who you can be, which sometimes sucks because that limits you, and it sucks if you don't agree with them. So the problem here is they typecast you because the industry feels a need to put you in a box, in a label, so they can make it easy for them. You are the hero, you are the girl next door, you are the best friend type, you are the athletic type, whatever it is that is your type that they define you. And we'll talk about this in another episode. There's so much to talk about types, if we agree with them, if we don't, if they're helpful, if they don't. But that's how agents work. They will put a type on you because it helps them submit you to breakdowns and for jobs and procure you that job that you need. So they will decide who you are, and you can help them with that in the interview, which we will talk about. But just know that that is a very important thing, and that you need to know how you want to sell yourself to them and how you want to present yourself to them. So agents make usually 10% of what you earn. If an agent wants more than that, that's no good. 10% is the industry standard, but also, be aware that because they make 10%, there's this saying that they make 10% of the job. So yes, they will submit you, yes, they will find you jobs, but an agent will not solve your life. An agent will not be the person who will just catapult your career and solve all your problems. Actually, I have my own story about that, because when I moved to LA, I had no agent. I moved to LA with nothing, just very happy with myself. And the first months being here, I got several interviews with agents. I will talk about now how you get those and how you get an agent. But I got an interview with a very big agency, and I remember friends of mine being like, oh my God, that's incredible, sign with them, don't even think about it. So I went to the interview, the agent was very nice, and I just left, and right away that night he was like, we want to sign with you. And I was like, this is crazy, this is amazing. So we signed, and months went by and I didn't get a single audition. In a whole year that I was with them, I got one single audition. So what happened there? Big agencies have a big roster. A big roster means probably 100 people. Actually, I asked my agent how many people was in his roster, and he said about 100. That's an issue because they make money if you make money. So they are gonna send the people first that they know for sure will make them money. Why would they waste their time on someone they don't know how the outcome is gonna be when they have people that for sure will make them money? So that's the issue with being with a big agency, and that's why you still have to keep doing your job, why you still have to, not just that, but also preparing yourself and going to classes and courses and just keep forming yourself as an actor. But also just know that be careful with those big agencies, and they might be great, but it might take a while to get things started. So let's explain what a manager is now, and then we'll get more into how do you get them. So a manager, the difference between agent and manager. So we said agent just procures the job and negotiates it, and they get the exclusive breakdowns. Managers are more inclusive than that. Managers, they manage your whole career. So that's awesome because you can call them more, and they can like make sure you are going to a class and you're educating yourself as an actor. They're like a family member that really cares about you and also knows a lot about the industry. They care about your career as a whole. They don't just care about just getting you on audition, which is cool, especially when you're starting. But you also gotta make sure, this is the one thing, the most important thing I'm gonna say about getting a manager, is that you gotta make sure he or she is in the conference of personal managers. Because if they're not in the conference of personal managers, they are not getting those breakdowns that we were talking about, or they could be getting them, but then they're not certified. You could have problems. So just make sure they are in the conference of personal managers. Now, managers can earn more than agents because, of course, they do more than agents. So usually a manager's rate is between 10 to 15% of what you earn. So now let's get into how do I get an agent. There are many ways to get agents, and none of them are easy. So one way to get an agent is through a casting director. Now here, of course, the issue is, how do I get to meet a casting director? So unless you have a contact and you get to meet a casting director and create a relationship with a casting director, which I believe is very important and you should be doing, and we can talk about in another episode, it's hard to get an agent through a casting director because that means accessing, two people. It's two relationships that you have to build. But it's possible, and it's a really good way to get a good agent. Actually, the best agents will only accept clients if they come from recommendations of a casting director or a producer or something like that. Another way of getting an agent, which is the easiest one if you're just out of school and you don't know a casting director and you don't have contacts, is one-on-one meetings. This one we're gonna expand in a little bit. Another one is showcases. Probably your school did a showcase when you finish, if you went to school. If you didn't get a showcase when you finished, when you went to school, there's many showcases available in the city that are happening continuously, both in LA and New York City, and I'm sure in other cities of the US. So find those showcases around you. You don't need a partner, you don't need anything. You go there and they find you the person. So it's very cool, and you get to perform, and many people from the industry come. So a showcase is a good way to find an agent. Another good way is inviting them to your shows. If you are a theater actor and you're doing shows, or you're doing stand-up, or you're doing theater performance, I don't know, whatever you are doing, sending them an invitation to that is a great way to get them, because not only you're introducing yourself with a headshot and a resume and whatever you send them, but they also get to see your work live and you get to meet them. So that is a great way to introduce yourself. And the last one is mailings, which is the way you get usually the one-on-one meetings that we were talking about. So mailings is how I got my first agent. Mailings are old-fashioned, but they still work. There's a lot of things in the industry, both in the theater and film industry, that are still very old-fashioned made, and they still work, and that's how it's still being done. Maybe someday it will work, but like snail mail, that's what I'm talking about. Emails is still great, and emails is a good way to go too nowadays, but mailings are still a thing. And there's a whole technique to it. There's a whole planning to it. This is how I do it. Mailings, you want to do mailings around every 3 months. And you have to schedule really carefully when you want to do mailings. Usually you want to do mailings before pilot season, because that's when they're looking for people for projects. Because if you're not in pilot season, they already have a roster. Now, things are getting harder right now, not just for the pandemic, but also because the industry is getting, very... there's many new opportunities. It's not just like big studios doing things like the original ones that we've always had. Like, we're starting to have things on the internet. We have Hulu, we have Netflix, we have Amazon Prime. We have many things coming up, which is amazing, and it's opening us to more opportunities. So there's still pilot season, but they're casting more through all the year. So that is a good advantage for us. But still, usually and classically, best time to send is right before pilot season, which would be ideally December and January. So you do your mailings the way that I did it, and I think it's the best way to organize yourself, is creating lists. I created an A list and a B list. You could do a C list, but I really don't think you want to sign with the agents in the C list, because I don't know about you, I'm very stubborn. I'm like, if I don't get the best, I rather not have an agent. Like, I rather just work freelance and then work my way up to an agent, right? So in your A list, you have your first choices, and just aim high. I mean, you might as well, right? Like, go with the ones that would be ideal. And your B list, aim for people who are good agencies, might be smaller, but still a good agency, and you'd like to sign with them. So first do your A-list mailings, and then do your B-list mailings. I would do your A-list mailings 1 month, and then wait 3 months and do B-list mailings, and then wait 3 more months, and you can resend to the A-list if you really have been doing a lot of stuff and things have changed. So in your mailings, what you want to send is your headshot, your resume, and a cover letter. I don't know why we actors get very nervous about like what to say and what to do, but like, keep it simple. Your cover letter doesn't have to be like ass kissing them. It doesn't have to be like exaggerated of how amazing I am and you need me. It doesn't, like, just be yourself and like just show them your personality and who you are. You can do that through email too, but emails are more easily lost. Of course, if you do mailings, most of the times it won't even get to the agent. It will just get to the person in the front desk, and they'll just throw it away because it's not coming again from a casting director or a producer. And these big agencies don't really care for people who don't come with recommendation. But mailings are physical form, so are harder to get lost. So you can do emails, you can do mailings, see what works for you. I did mailings with mine, and that worked. So also there's a big controversy because I've heard people saying you can go in person. Personally, I think you want to get them to want to see you before you go in person, because if you go in person, chances are that you're going to be bothering them. They're very busy, and even if they were not very busy, like, put yourself in their shoes. This person who you don't know is showing up, and how many people do that, right? Like, I bet it gets annoying. They just show up and they try to get your attention, and they're just desperate to get your attention. You don't want that. It's like any kind of relationship. You don't want someone who doesn't want you. So that's the same with your agent or your manager. You don't want an agent or a manager who doesn't want you. So your goal is to get them to want to see you, and not just be desperate and try to get their attention in any single way. Now, I've heard people who've gotten into big agencies that way. So I don't know what works for you with your personality, what kind of person you are. I've had actors tell me, you don't get anything big if you play it safe. So I went ahead and got my agent a present of something they really wanted. I heard that story of someone who got their agent these shoes that they had published on a social media platform that they really wanted, and they sent them only one pair of the shoe, not one pair, just one shoe of the pair. And he was like, if you want the other shoe, contact me. Now, I think that's creepy as fuck. Like, if someone sent me that, like, that's like some psycho vibes. I don't know if it works for some people. Some people say it works. I wouldn't do that. You choose what you want to do for yourself, but I wouldn't do that. So now you've done your mailings and your emails to your A list and your B list, and hopefully you've gotten some answers. Trust me, you're going to send 20 things and you're going to get 1 or 2 answers. And that's just how it is, and don't feel bad about it. And when you get the answer, you're going to get a meeting. Don't get nervous. Don't think about it as much as a business meeting. Think about it more as a first date, because again, they want to get to know who you are. So when you get there, the most important thing, when you go on a first date, would you talk about business? No, right? So when you get to your agent meeting, do not talk about business. Be yourself. Like, you really have to show them who you are. And the most important thing is show them that you are also interested in them. Because again, that's like a first date. You wouldn't go on a first date and just expect the person to just ask you everything. They're not going to be interested in you if you're not interested in them. So you can also ask them questions. Think about it as a conversation, not an interview where you are just being put in the spot and there's a spotlight on you and all the pressure of answering the right thing. There's no right or wrong answer. What they want to know is who you are, and what you want to know is who they are, because you also want to know that you want to work with that person. Again, it's a two-way street. I understand that some actors suck at interviews. I think I've gotten better, but I gotta admit, I used to suck at interviews, and many of us do, because many actors are very shy and introverts, and many actors suck at just being themselves. And that's why we're actors, because we love being other people. And damn, that just got very deep, but I know you can empathize with what I'm saying. And it's really funny because there's this story around about Robert De Niro when he was first starting out in theater and acting off Broadway, because of course, like any great actor, he started in theater before he got into film and TV. And he was off Broadway when he was starting, and before he got his role in Godfather 2, and then he got all famous and moved to LA and all those things. And there's this story of how he went to an interview, and he was just shy and inarticulate, and the casting director described him as, unimpressive. He just seemed like a regular person who had not much to say. And then the casting director and the director and the producer were all talking about the options they had, and Robert De Niro was brought up, and they were like, oh yeah, that guy, he's kind of boring, like nothing special about him, right? And then someone in the room said, well, I think we should give him still an opportunity to do a reading. And of course he went to the reading, and it was impressive. I mean, he just was brilliant. It's the best reading they had ever seen. Of course, that's the Robert De Niro we all know. And that just comes to say that, a lot of actors suck at interviews, even the best ones. So I understand that. But also try to put yourself in the shoes of the interviewer. Try to put yourself in the shoes of the agent and the manager. It's necessary. You have to try your best to be your best self when you're with them, and to just be yourself and try to let them in, not just go there and be shy and not expressive, because that's not going to help either of you. Because of course, get in their position. If you're an agent and manager and someone comes to you and they're just like barely talking and they're shy and they just don't even know what they want for themselves, why would you want them to be in your roster? Also know that in auditions, it's the same as in an agent or manager interview. Agents and managers, they also want you to be as good as you can. They really want you to be successful because, even if it's just for the money reason, they want another person who's going to give them money. So why wouldn't they want you to succeed in their interview? So again, we already talked about it, but like when I said don't talk about business, also don't talk about your resume, because you already gave them that. You already gave them a headshot and a resume. They can already see that. They don't need to hear you recite your whole resume and show that you have memorized it. What they want to hear is stories. Tell them a story about when you were a child. Tell them a story about something that has happened recently in your life that was life-changing. Tell them a story about, something terrible that has happened to you. Just tell them something that they could not find on your resume. Tell them something that they could not find, just Googling you. So when you got the interview, when you got out, they're probably going to tell you within 24 hours if they want to sign with you or not, because again, they're very busy people, so they're just going to be like, yes, no, very quick. Before signing with them, of course, read everything. You don't want to get in a contract, especially if you're just starting out, and especially if it's an agency that's not very big and you don't know too much about. Don't get in a contract where you cannot get out. That's one of the first tips they gave me when I got here, and I'm just very grateful I followed that tip. Because what happens if you get into a contract where you're like signed for X amount of years and you cannot get out? And the thing that I'm telling you happened to me and happens to a lot of actors happens, like you don't get auditions. Then what? Like you're stuck with an agency that's not giving you jobs, and you're stuck in your career because you can't do anything about it. You can't go find anybody else. So that's one of the most important tips that I would say. Another big tip for agents and managers is related to your headshots. It's a weird cycle what I'm about to say, but hear me out. You need headshots to get an agent and a manager. And when you're in school, probably senior year, you need to get your headshots done, and you get your headshots done. But then you send the headshots to the agent and manager, you get the agent and manager, and most likely what the agent and manager are going to say is, I need you to take new headshots. They are very, very picky and specific on what they want. And every agent wants something different depending on what they saw on you. Remember when we talked about them typecasting you? Yes, they want headshots that are very, very type-oriented. Especially if you're signing with a commercial agent, because there's different type of agents. I think I haven't mentioned that. I'm sorry. There's TV and film agents, there's commercial agents, and there's theater agents. So if you sign with a commercial agent, there's definitely going to ask you to take very specific type-oriented commercial shots. So that's a cycle that you are going to spend money, and then you're going to get an agent, you're going to have to spend money again. I committed that error. I was senior year of college and I took headshots with David Knowles. I saved so much money to take headshots with the god David Knowles, and we can talk about that another day, but I don't regret it. I would take headshots with David Knowles any single day if I had the money. But I took the headshots and then I signed with my agent, and he said, I need you to take new headshots. So I spent all that money that, I have used them when I have self-submitted myself and done my things. But yeah, I had to spend more money on other headshots. So looking back, maybe I should have waited and taken like cheaper headshots just so I could get an agent. Cheaper, but still good. Don't get me wrong. Please don't go cheap and bad on your headshots. Headshots are very important. So the other day, I also had a friend who messaged me, and he was telling me how he just signed with an agent and he was very excited. And he was telling me, this is the list my agent has sent me for headshots, but I really, really want to get amazing headshots. I know you've gotten headshots with David Knowles. What do you think? And this is what I told him, just in case any of you is in this situation. Just go with your agents. Like, I know you want to get David Knowles. I know you want to get whatever headshot photographer you want to get. But if your agent sends you a list, just follow that list. You don't want to get on the bad side of your agent. I mean, you could ask him, but honestly, if they're sending you a list, it's because they want you to take headshots with those people. And again, they're very, very picky with that. So just go ahead, choose the one you like the most in that list and that fits your budget the most, and just take those headshots. Other than that, I think something I have to say before we finish is that you have to keep the relationship with your agent and manager. Once you've signed, they are very busy again and they have many things to do. So it's your business to keep that relationship, to message them, to email them, to make sure you're doing as much as you can. I've also heard a lot of actors being like, oh, it's not working with my agent or my manager. It's like, well, have you tried reaching out to them and asking what you are doing wrong? Because again, this is like any relationship. Like, you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever you have. It's like, well, two people don't break up. Like, it's not always one person's fault. You know what I mean? Like if it's not working, maybe you are not doing enough either. Maybe you need to get new headshots. Maybe you're not getting enough education. Maybe you're not going to enough acting courses, acting classes, whatever it is. So always also make sure to communicate with them, like in any relationship. And when you finally book something, congratulations. But when you book something, do not forget to be grateful to them. Send them a card. That's a minimum. If they book you something amazing, or if you're someone who wants to be really grateful and you want to be on the really good side, send them a gift. That's also very important. And also for the holidays. I mean, if you know when their birthday is, also send them a card or a gift for their birthday. Also for the holidays, wish them, Merry Christmas, whatever it is. Send them a gift. Remember them. Keep the relationship alive. Maintain that good relationship with them, because that will be important for you and for them to remember you and for all we talked about. So those are all my basic tips on how to get an agent and how to navigate the agent manager life. And before I finish that, I also want to add that you do not need an agent or manager, especially when you're starting out. Sometimes you might be better off as a freelance artist. We've had many artists in the Actors Vow Sunday Spotlight talk about that. And we'll have many artists in the podcast that also talk about not having an agent and also talk about having an agent. So just so you know, don't get stressed if you don't have an agent. You are okay. You are in a good time for that, because we have the internet and there's so many opportunities for you, even if you don't have an agent or manager right now. My big tip is I'd rather wait for one that is worth it than sign with someone and then it being worse. You might be better off by yourself. So before we finish this week's episode, let's get to the play of the week. This week's play of the week is Anna Christie by Eugene O'Neill. I did some work with that like since study senior year of college. I don't know if you've read Anna Christie, you for sure know Eugene O'Neill, but Anna Christie might not be one of his most read plays. Anna Christie is a story of a former prostitute and she falls in love, and it's, dealing with all the barriers that are put in her life because she used to be a prostitute by her father, by her lover. It's very emotional, very intense, like any Eugene O'Neill, and it's incredible if you want to do scene study stuff or directing in your school. It's also good for monologues. It's definitely a good monologue that I would use for a college audition. But again, those characters are very, very intense and very three-dimensional. So be careful with those roles and those characters too. But if you haven't read it, Anna Christie, there's also a movie. Greta Garbo played Anna Christie. So if you want to read the play and also watch the movie, that's great because it's also an incredible movie. So play of the week, Anna Christie by Eugene O'Neill. And this will be all for this week. Next week, we don't have an episode. Sorry, but I need a break. But I'm also going to be posting on the Actors Vow Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Not YouTube next week, but I will be in touch. Happy Thanksgiving if you don't follow on Instagram, which you should. Also, if you want to give me a Thanksgiving gift, you could leave a review on iTunes and also subscribe. That's very helpful for the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the VIP Backstage Pass of the Actors Vow, because emails are going out and a lot of information is coming and a lot of maybe Christmas and holiday specials. So be sure you are there for that. You can find that in the link in bio on the Instagram of the Actors Vow. Thank you so much, guys, for another amazing week. I'm just so happy that I get to share this with you every week. And this Thanksgiving, of course, I will be thankful for you. I will see you in 2 weeks.